Okay, our first segment of Tick and Talk. First of all, who's Tick and who's Talk?
I'm Tick. He's Talk.
Why would you be Tick?
Because I am more or less the oldest. I'm 83 years old. I should be number one.
Okay.
He's Talk because
I can talk.
Because he can
we
talk.
do most of the talking.
And he does a lot of talking.
So far, it seems like you're Talk.
Yeah, I know.
Alright, so for our first segment, what we're going to do is we're going to take all the questions that everyone has posted on the internet and we're going to field them. So we might not have time for all of them, but we might be able to get one or two or three in here.
Very good.
And then we're going to end up with a little segment called Things Not to Do. Alright, the first question. Alright, I'm moving the clock. What do I need to know? Let's start off with, let's say, like a simple mantle clock.
What kind of clock are you
Like a
moving?
mantle clock. Let's say one of those behind you there.
Well, your mantle clock, normally it's got a small pendulum to it. Your best bet is, it all depends how far you're moving it. If you're not moving it too far, a couple, 2-3 feet, you can pick it up and carry it real carefully to the position you want to go. But if you were to move it at quite a distance, I would say take the pendulum off, take your clock to your destination, and put the pendulum back on the clock very carefully, because if you don't, you can end up throwing the clock on a beat. And that, when I say throwing the clock on a beat, I'm saying your clock will sound like it's a tick-tock, not a real smooth tick-tock, tick-tock, tick. This is very important when trying to put a clock in beat.
So the pendulum is what you're worried about. And Talk, what is the pendulum hooked to? I know we did a little segment before about that.
Well, pendulums could be hooked to normally a suspension spring,
which is
a pendulum
fragile.
holder, different sizes. Could be hooked right up to a pendulum. And we showed before what a pendulum spring is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some old antique clocks will have we don't see too many of them, but they'll have a string, suspension spring. And those are very odd, but they were done years and years ago.
I've got some broken dancers on my clock. What do I do for something like that? Can I repair that, or do I need to buy those?
Dancers? What type of clock?
Well, I think they're talking about a cuckoo
clock. Yeah, I think you could buy the dancers.
Yeah.
Through one of the better clock shops.
Well, I've seen you guys do some repairs on them before.
Well, you can try to glue them back together, but that's like anything, it's going to show a little break or a glue mark on it. And if you want to keep it pristine, then you probably might want to buy new ones.
Okay. All right. Last segment. Things not to do.
Things not to do.
Well, tell them by using the wrong key in the clock.
Oh, it's very important that it might be best if you've got a mantle clock, take it to your neighborhood clock repair shop.
Yeah.
And ask for the right key for your clock. Now you know.
They come in different sizes.
They come in all different. You'll probably have the size you're looking for. You want to find a key that fits snug, good and tight. Whereas if you don't, and you start winding on that clock arbor, and you might get halfway through, your key will slip on the arbor, and you could end up with, if the key slips, it'll almost take your fingers off.
Ooh.
Yes, because that clock spring is under a heavy load, and it's a heavy duty
tension, right?
Heavy duty tension.
And this is like the end of an arbor. This is just off the kitchen clock unit, and it's got 4 sides, and that's your key inside has 4 sides. That's why it's got to be a good fit. This is a sloppy fit, but a lot of times when you have the right key or the wrong key, you can round these corners off. And that's what Tick was talking about, rounding the corners. And if the corners are round, and when you get this thing to a full wind and it slips out of there, it can take your, hurt your fingers, it'll hurt the clock. So that's one thing you got to be careful of. Things not to do, using the wrong key. Don't overwind the clock. Why don't you overwind the clock?
Well, you don't want to overwind the clock for the simple reason your spring inside your clock would only take so much strain. Anytime you try to overload and strain on that spring, this is when your spring will let go, and if it does let go, it'll tear up part of your clock and tear up part of your fingers.
Yeah, this is a spring. This is a broken spring off a kitchen clock, and you can see where it's let go in here. That's not necessarily from overwinding. It just could be from age. A lot of times on these, we'll have the ends torn right through because people just keep winding, and they'll pull the arbor right through the end of the spring, and it has to be replaced by a good repairman.
And if a spring isn't, if a clock isn't oiled at least every 5-10 years,
5 years,
the spring will get corroded in such a way where it becomes dry,
sticky,
brittle,
and sticky. And this is supposed to, this will wind up to
that is where your clock stopped on you.
Yeah, and it just doesn't have the power anymore. So these all have to be released when a clock is cleaned and re-oiled. All right, so we'll be answering more questions in a week or two as we get them.
And where should they go to submit their questions?
myclockstop.com.
All right, this is episode 1 from... What's your name?
I'm Tick.
I'll talk.
He's Talk.
All right, we'll see you guys.